Hailing from the Jersey Shore and raised as athletes, the Airey Bros have always shared a passion for physical culture, athletic performance, and human optimization, always striving to be the strongest versions of themselves, mentally, physically, spiritually, and emotionally. Along the way, they've met some pretty amazing humans and have had some pretty epic adventures. The intention of Airey Bros Radio is to showcase these amazing people and the impact that they've had on them, and to share tips, tricks, and hacks so that you can win each day, every day.
You're listening to Airey Bros Radio. Be there or be square, because it's all killer, no filler.
Even though there's a lot of things going on, you still have to focus on what you're trying to get done. Get ready for that opportunity. It will come. It's going to come faster than you think. So keep yourself focused. I was at this camp up at Hume Lake, and one of the kids asked me at the end of camp, like, if you could do anything different in your career, what would you do? And I just said I'd learn to enjoy the moments more. It definitely showed our guys a lot, just sometimes things aren't going to go right, but you got to keep your head in the game. You got to stay ready to go. I just reminded them every time we got on a Zoom call or every time I talked to them, there will be a champion crowned in March, and we can let this time pass, and we can use all this time and all this stuff that's going on as a excuse, but no one's going to give a shit when we get to that third week of March. I think more so is just the day-to-day discipline, the process that you went through to get yourself prepared as a wrestler. I think that's probably been more a part of my life than anything, just the day-to-day discipline. This is Troy Steiner, and you're listening to Airey Bros Radio. Yeah, no, it's it's been unbelievable support since we've been here. I came in here it'll be 5 years in May when I was hired, and they gave me that first year to put everything together, hire my staff, and really recruit the first group of guys in here. And when I came in, I definitely negotiated what I felt I needed here to get this program up and going, and I wanted to make sure that the program I take over, the guys are going to have the same resources I had in college, and give them the best chance to succeed as possible. So I kind of put it on the line, or what I felt I needed to come from a support standpoint, from budgets to scholarships to salaries and all that, and they agreed to do that. So, and I knew I was coming into an area that was obviously is a hotbed for wrestling. I think it's, you look at this area, it's probably one of 4 places across the U.S. that wrestling is this, I guess, important to the communities here. It's kind of a woven within their fabric, that wrestling is. So I knew I was coming into an area that was very rich in wrestling, and I just thought it was a place where I could build this thing. If given the proper resources, I could build this thing pretty quick. And if I surround myself with the right people, and when I came in, I wanted, my biggest vision, I think, was I wanted to have people that wanted to be a part of this. And not everyone does. Not everyone wants to be a part of a startup program. Not everyone wants to be a start of something that's just starting out, and you're going to go through some growing pains as you go. And it's not for everyone. So I wanted to make sure that my staff had the same mindset, or had the same kind of vision that I had, or at least could buy into the vision that I had. And then the athletes as well, because some of the athletes want to go to a program that is already established and is up and running full force. And I knew that wasn't going to be this program for a few years, So it was very important that first group of people that I got was very critical to the growth that we had over the last 4 years now that I've been here. And it's, I think, we're definitely weren't where I wanted to be or I wanted to get to, but we're definitely well on our way. I felt we were well on our way. Our first year we had 2 guys qualify for the NCAAs with AJ Nevels and Christian Olivas. and there are kids right here from Clovis area, and they really helped spark a lot of the interest of other kids in the area, and then we also we were top 5 in attendance that year, and we averaged about 4,500 people. But so yeah, I mean, I think we had some things going in the right direction with our attendance. We had a couple national qualifiers that first year. We also 2 staff members, Jason Chamberlain and Joe Cologne, won the U.S. Open that year, and both were in the final acts. So not that they wouldn't have been there without being here, but I think it helped show our athletes that were here that we're doing some things right, and so they really bought into what we were doing, and then I felt it was really going in the right direction, and then when this news hit the last fall, it was definitely a blow, but no, we had a lot of things happen that I felt were very positive the first few years. There's no doubt about it. With our attendance the first year, Jason and Joe both making the final acts, and then Joe they both got beat in the final acts, but Joe actually got the spot because Nashawn Garrett got hurt, and he kept himself ready, and he went over to Hungary and won a bronze. So it definitely showed our guys a lot. Just sometimes things aren't going to go right, but you got to keep your head in the game. You got to stay ready to go, and Joe did that, and it was great. And then the next year we had 5 guys qualify for the NCAAs, and we had an All-American with Josh Hokett, placing at 197. And then last year we had 5 guys again go to the NCAAs, but then we didn't have the NCAAs. And then this year we had 2 guys qualify for the NCAAs from Fresno, but we actually had 5 other guys that were there that were at Fresno and they transferred out at semester because of the situation. And so we really had 7 guys at the NCAAs this year, and every guy won a match. At least one match, and then Kyle Parco really had a outstanding performance at 149, and ended up placing as a freshman.
And with those other guys that were at the tournament but weren't in Fresno singlets, did they all come out of the Big 12 as well?
No, we had a few of them did. Jackson Hemauer came out of the Big 12 for Northern Colorado. Jacob Wright came out of the Big 12 from out of Wyoming. Owen Pence at North Dakota State. And then we had Ryan Reyes that was at Oregon State at 184.
Okay.
Greg Gaxiola transferred to Hofstra, and he made it at 149. So it was those were the other 5.
Okay. And you talk about the 2 All-Americans that you've had in the last 2 NCAA tournaments. Both of those gentlemen, from what I've heard about, read about, both have very unique stories in terms of, one was a football player, went on to be an All-American, and then, if I heard correctly, the gentleman this year, he wasn't even the 149 starter up until a couple weeks before.
Well, the situation was we had DJ Loren, who was our national qualifier this year at 141, and he was a national qualifier last year as well. He was at 41, and Parco was coming off of a redshirt year, and he was at 41 as well. And I really thought that throughout the season it would play itself out, and we'd determine our guy at 141, because I've never been. I always felt that I wanted to give the guys their opportunity where they feel is their best chance to get in there and be an All-American, to get themselves to the top of the stand as a national champion. You go where you feel is best, and if we have to make some changes for team we'll deal with that as it goes. Well, I want you to start it out and go where you feel you need to go and to get that done. Well, so they both started out there. We had a shortened season the way it was because we never started till January. So we go into our first match, January 3rd. We had 3 matches, and they both wrestled at 41, and we could wrestle extra matches. So they both wrestled the same guys, and both, won all the matches. And then we came back from that. We had a COVID outbreak. So we were sitting for 2 weeks. So we missed our match with Stanford. We missed our match with Wyoming. And then we were back again competing. And we got hit again with the COVID after that. And that weekend, they both went undefeated again, both at 40. That week, DJ was at 41, and I asked Parco to bump up to 49 because our 49 pounder was out because of a COVID situation. So I asked Parco to bump up, and he said he would, but he still wants a shot at 41. I said, don't worry, I'll give you your shot at 41. And he went up there and looked good and wrestled well. Still weighing in at 141. And then after that, we hit another COVID outbreak, and then I knew it was going to be like I didn't have enough matches to really evaluate the situation, and I didn't know what the best way to handle it. I knew Parco just by watching him perform, by seeing him in the practice room. I knew he could probably wrestle up at 49, but again, I wanted to give him that opportunity. I told him I was going to give him the opportunity, and so it was a very hard decision for me to make, and it came up about 10 days before Big 12s. We were still sitting because of a COVID situation. We didn't have really any opportunities for them to meet in matches to see who would have been the guy. And I told Parco that I said, this is one of the hardest things I've ever done as a coach because I was going back on my word, because I said I'd give him an opportunity, and that goes against all my principles. So it was the hardest thing one of the hardest things I've ever done as a coach. And but I said I wouldn't do this if I didn't think he can get it done at 49. I said you can be upset at me, you can be pissed. I said I would probably be upset as well, but all your goals that you have are still in front of you. I said, so let's not waste this energy on being pissed off about it. And I said, let's get ready to wrestle at Big 12s and let's get ready to go. And he went home for a couple of days over the weekend, and I came back and he was like, let's go to work. Let's get it done. So he handled it like a professional, and now, he went into Big 12s, had a great performance there, beat Dagan first match, All-American from Iowa State. And I think it kind of showed him right there that he can get it done. And then he ended up taking third in the tournament, qualified himself. And then he went into St. Louis and had a good performance there. So, and now I think he's thinking that, he's still a young guy. He's going to grow a little bit anyway, just maturity. So I think he's going to stay up at 49. So, nice. So yeah, it worked out. It worked out for us, for the most part.
Yeah, he was definitely one of the guys that after, the first round or two, they started to highlight a little bit more on TV, and I started to take notice of him. And yeah, definitely with everything that's going on, you start pulling for guys like that. And obviously with Shane, what he did, and also being a Jersey guy, we get behind that stuff. And I'd have to dig it out of the archive somewhere, but I believe I have a Save Fresno State Wrestling shirt from the first go around in 07 or whatever it was. So super, super stoked to see what he did and see the limited crowd, but the crowd get behind guys like that. And it was really interesting and a fun little story to take on throughout the NCAA tournament this year.
Yeah, man, it's going to be fun to watch his career as it unfolds here the next 4 years, because he's got 4 years left and gets this one back. So he's definitely got a special talent for sure. And he wrestles all positions. And, if wherever he goes, people are going to be happy to have him. There's no doubt he adds to the team. He's a team player. He works his butt off. He's got a great work ethic and really self-motivated as well. So just a great kid. I was lucky to have him here. Yeah.
Is he one of those Clovis area guys?
No, he came from De La Salle.
Okay.
Which it was probably another big motivator for him. His high school coach, Mark Halverson, who has done a lot with the USA Greco program. And he passed away about 3 weeks or a month before NCAAs.
Okay.
And obviously it had a big impact on Kyle, and that was another motivator for him to get the job done. So just in remembrance of Mark.
Yeah. And with that wrestling mindset, oftentimes, even when you have a great tournament like that, sometimes you may be a little unsatisfied with it, with the situation, everything going on. Did he come away from the tournament with obviously looking towards the future and fired up for that, but was he satisfied with his performance?
Well, I think he was happy about it. He's a freshman on the award stand, probably wrestling up a weight this year. But at the same time, you see the guys that are a step above you or a few steps above you, and he was this close to taking Sasso out second round. And I think he realizes, it's good, but I want more. I don't think he's satisfied. I think he was happy with his performance maybe, but it hurts a little more when you're standing on that awards stand. You got 5 guys in front of you yet.
Yeah.
So, and he's a competitor. So,
Coach, you had touched on the adversity of the season, knowing that the administration was going to drop the program, having 2 COVID outbreaks and kind of slowing the season that was already shortened. How do you as a coach stay focused, not let that get to you, and kind of keep the guys motivated when you have a lot on your plate kind of every time you go out on the mat?
Well, I think the biggest thing is I knew that my biggest focus, and it always has been and always will be, is the athletes that are here, and I can't control what happens here at the university. And there's a lot of things that I can't control, but one thing I can control is where my focus is and where I put my energy into. And these guys were, guys that have decided to stay here and for this year and anyway. And I wanted to make sure they finished out here very strong and gave them the best opportunity to succeed. So it's even though there's a lot of things going on, you still have to focus on what you're trying to get done and the goals that they had coming into this year or coming here to this program. I just had to get them to realize they're still in front of you. All this other stuff we can't control, so let's focus on what we can control. And even with all the COVID, and really we didn't even get to practice all summer. Really, I couldn't be with them. They didn't want me around the guys. So I just reminded them every time we got on a Zoom call or every time I talked to them, there will be a champion crowned in March, and we can let this time pass, and we can use all this time and all this stuff that's going on as a excuse, but no one's going to give a shit when we get to that 3rd week of March. No one's going to care what they are, what your excuses are. They're going to step on the mat, and if they're ready to go, that's all they're worried about, and that's all you can really focus on yourself. Get ready for that opportunity. It will come. It's going to come faster than you think. So keep yourself focused, and I can help with any training situations you want, but you've got to be the driver here. You've got to be the driver. And it's very much like a wrestling match. As a coach, we probably get more credit for when good things happen, and probably get when stuff doesn't happen, we probably get a lot more thrown at us than it needs to be too. But most of it comes down to the athlete and what are they doing day in and day out to get themselves ready. So I just knew I had to really help foster that and really help motivate them that way on a day-to-day basis, and kind of keep them on track. But it really came down to them pushing themselves day in and day out, and they did. These guys did a great job. Kyle and DJ and really all our guys that qualified for nationals, if they were somewhere else or not, they all did a great job. And even the guys that were here, part of the program, that never qualified, they did a good job helping each other go about it. So I'm not going to take too much credit there. These guys, it was really self-driven, a lot of it this year, and I got to credit them for just keeping themselves ready for the opportunity. Because in a wrestling match, it's very much the same. You step on the mat as a coach on the corner. The coaching's done at that point. I feel. You might see one or two little things, or be able to, point something to the ref, but the coaching's pretty much done by the time you get there. They've got to be able to push themselves and make those changes quickly in a match without your help. At that point, I feel so.
Yeah. There's not much a lot of yelling can do in certain situations other than give you a headache.
No, you just want to, if there's certain times you might have to yell at them or do something to get their attention or change their mindset, or if you think it's, wavering a little bit, but for the most part, that coaching should be done before that point.
Yeah. Given the, your COVID situations throughout the season, what was it like going to the NCAAs? Were you nervous up until each time that first round started in terms of getting through the protocols and everything like that?
Well, yeah, I mean, that was the biggest thing, because we already had 2 COVID outbreaks. So it was like every time you go test, it's like you just got to cross your fingers and hope someone doesn't come up positive again. Because even the 2 COVID outbreaks we had that one was our strength coach tested positive, but since we were all on the bus with him, we all had to sit for 14 days. And the other one, we had a kid that was coming off a knee surgery, wasn't even practicing with us. Same thing, I took him with to film. He wasn't even practicing with us, but I took him with to film because we just needed an extra guy. And he tested positive, and we all had to sit. So 2 situations, none of the guys that were actually in the practice room wrestling tested positive. It was the other people that were with us. But that's the way the protocols and the policies here at the university we had to follow.
Was there a big difference this year from all of your other NCAA experiences, both as an athlete and a coach throughout the years?
Well, I don't think, as a coach and an athlete, I don't think, obviously you don't have the crowd there, but when you're in the back side of the arena and you're getting ready for matches, and even when you come out on the floor, you're not really focused on that. So I never noticed it at all, because the sessions were broke up with the lower weights and the upper weights. So the session 1 was the lower weights, and as we had 2 guys in the lower weights, I never really noticed it, because you're just focused on what you need to do as a coach, how you can help your athlete get ready, and really focusing on him. But then in the second session, I stayed there to watch some of the other guys that were here at Fresno, and wanted to watch them compete. And then I was sitting up in the stands, and then I noticed the difference. Yeah. Because you don't have the crowd and that just the energy from the crowd. But as a coach and an athlete, I don't know if I noticed it too much different when you're in the thick of it.
Right. When you're in the zone, you're just in the zone.
Yeah, you're not focusing on this out here. You're pretty got the blinders on and pretty focused on what you need to do.
On the flip side of that, I'd be curious. I wonder if not having all of that chaos going on with the fans and the noise and everything, I wonder if some of the athletes were able to outperform, their seeding or their ranking because of not having all that going on. Never thought of it
possibly.
like that.
Possibly so. I think as an athlete, you're trained to kind of block all that stuff out though.
Yeah.
So you're, when you're going into those type of matches, you still know what's at stake. You still know, what the things that can take you off course and you got to stay away from. But I think it's just a matter of, sticking with what you're used to doing. No matter if it's you're competing in the practice room or in front of 15,000 people, what you do out on the mat is what really matters.
Right.
Coach, you had mentioned not really noticing it till you stayed and watched those other guys that were at Fresno but transferred when they heard that they were cutting the program. Was it kind of bittersweet for you seeing that there were 5 other guys that were in the program and they were at nationals and at one point they were Fresno guys, or did you have almost a sense of accomplishment? Yes, they weren't in Fresno singlets, but there were 7 guys that were in the room at some point last year, all at NCAAs this year.
Well, I'd be lying if I didn't say it didn't bother me. There's definitely you're thinking like, how could we have performed here as a team? How high could we have got as a team? And but at the same time, I was very happy for them that they were able to move somewhere and adjust very quickly and handle that adversity and get themselves to that point, to the NCAAs and give themselves a chance to compete and get themselves on the awards stand. So I was very happy for them as individuals, and they'll always be part of my family because they chose here. They decided to come here when we had this thing going, and I'll never forget that, because they could have went elsewhere right away. And then we were just put in a bad situation, all of us. So, and I told them when they first made the decision they were going to discontinue the sport after the season, that, I'm not going to be upset with you guys if you decide to, put yourself in the portal and find a new home. Obviously I said, I want you to be patient. And if you don't find anything or an opportunity doesn't come to you, I'll help you find a place after the season. But if you have a place and they're offering you, a scholarship or, a good package, I said, I'm not gonna be upset with you. I mean, we were all put in this situation. So you want what's best for them. So, and 5 of them were able to, or there was more than 5. There was half of our team. We had about 30 guys, and at the end of the season, we had 15 guys left. So we had 15 guys to fill 10 spots this year. So that's what we had.
And have those other 15 guys, if they started to look for new homes? Or
Yeah,
have
some
any
of
of them
them
found them?
Some of them, and some of them, are just, they're in their junior, senior year. They're just going to finish out and get their degree and move on. But there's definitely a handful of them, probably 6, 7 of them they'll find a new place. They're kind of working on that right now. So.
How about yourself?
It's kind of gonna just, I want to be patient myself. I don't want to, for one, I got to do what's right for my family. In this job or this career, I've moved a few times, and maybe it wasn't the best thing for my family or my wife or my kids or my wife's career, but they've been troopers and have done it. So I want to make sure it's a place that I want to be, and I don't want to move again. I never take a job to move on to a different job. I never came here to move on to somewhere else. So I want to make sure it's right for us. I got a son that's a senior in high school, so he's going to obviously be moving out and moving on. And I have a daughter that's a sophomore in high school, so she's got 2 years left. So got to really think about that, what's best for her. And then my wife she's a physical therapist. She opened up a practice here a couple of years ago, and it's doing real well. And the good thing about that is she can probably recreate that elsewhere, but it also takes time to build up that network of people and doctors that you work with to refer to her. So, yeah, we're just trying to, we're going to be patient with it and find the right situation for us.
Right on. Do your kids wrestle?
My son does. Yeah, my son, he wrestles, and my daughter's a basketball player. So,
Ooh.
yeah.
Is your son going to go to college to wrestle?
Yeah, he is. He's looking at a few places now. He really hasn't made a decision. You know, it's a tough thing for the seniors this year because they're still in a dead period right now, so they can't even go take a official visit anywhere.
That's been over a year now, right? That they've been.
Yeah, it's been over a year or so. It's been a little difficult, but he's got, you know, he's been talking to coaches, obviously, and has a few places in mind. And, you know, I want to get him out there to take a look. I don't want him to make a decision without visiting, you know, and because I think it's there's so much more that goes to it than just the wrestling side of it. I said I want him to look at, you know, a place he wants to live. Do you want to live in a city? Do you want to live in a small community? Do you want to go to a big school, a small school? You know, you say you're going to be there 4 to 5 years, but what if you meet your spouse there? What if she's from there? You might be there for 15, 20, or the rest of your life. So you want to make sure you're at a place that you want to be there, you know?
Totally.
So trying to put everything together, kind of helping him, but I want him to make the decision because in the end, it is his decision. It's going to be his life that he goes on to. So,
yeah. And you mentioned all those things in terms of looking at it for a school other than just the wrestling program. You know, do you want to be in a city? Would you be in a smaller, or do you want a big school, small school? Were those any things that you and your brother took into consideration, or was it we're Hawkeyes and that's what it is?
yeah, no, I think ultimately that's what made our decision, to be honest, because, you know, growing up in Bismarck, North Dakota, I never saw a college match till my senior year in high school. So, I mean, the college match I saw was Bismarck Junior College against North Idaho, but it wasn't I never saw a Division I match until my senior year in high school. So I never knew the history of the Iowa program. I didn't understand it. You know, I knew obviously Coach Gable. I knew of Jay Robinson was recruiting us in Minnesota, and we went to Jay's camp, so I probably knew Jay more than Gable, and but I never knew really the history of wrestling. I'd grown up in North Dakota, there's no college sports really. You know, it wasn't like we sat at home on Saturdays and watched football or something like that. We lived in the country, we were outside, we had horses, we were pretty active with what we were doing. So I never knew the history of really wrestling. And I remember when Gable came up to recruit us, he kept talking about the program, the overall program, and the fans and all this. And I kept thinking to myself, like under my breath, like, who cares? Like, you know, it's not why I'm doing it, you know, and then when we ended up deciding to go there and we got down there, and one of our first big matches was Oklahoma State, and there's 15,000 people, and you're ready to run around to the floor, and you hear that roar of the crowd. And I looked back to my brother, and I had like, you know, chills and goosebumps, and I looked back to my brother and I said, I guess this is what he was talking about, huh? You know, so you don't understand the magnitude of it until you're in it, you know. And I think I was so naive coming out of high school. I didn't understand really of it. But I think in the end, like I got up tangent a little bit, but I think going to Iowa City was, I think the biggest reason I probably chose Iowa City over Minneapolis was because the size of the community. I wasn't used to living in a city. You know, Minneapolis was closer to home than Iowa City was. The University of Minnesota was offering more scholarship than Iowa was. And so we know it wasn't that you know, pulled us down there. I really think it came with the comfort of the size of the community. It was very similar to Bismarck in that sense, just the size. And I think that's so. I think it's an important thing to look at when you're a young kid coming out. Because if I would have went into Minneapolis, maybe I would have loved it. But at the time, I wasn't comfortable there. I know that.
So talk about growing up in Bismarck, then going to Iowa City, and I know your wrestling career has taken you to other locations. How do you like being in Fresno and being in that Central Valley area?
Yeah, every place I've been, there's good and bad, right? And I always tell people, if you're going to focus on the bad, you're going to be miserable wherever you're at. So you're focused on what it offers, what the great things are about it. And never in my wildest dreams I think I'd be living in Fresno, California. Even you would ask me 6 years ago, I would have said you're crazy. There's no way I'll be in Fresno, California. But the Lord works in mysterious ways, and He gets you. He's going to use you wherever you're planted. And I think we were put here for a reason. And now looking at it like the program has dropped, you're wondering. I'm asking the Lord why'd you put us here now? But there's a reason we're here, and the reason we were here, or we might end up being here. I don't know, but there's a reason we were here, and to work with the people we had here in the program, and we'll see where it takes us from here. But there's been every place I've been, there's been good and bad to it, and I've enjoyed every place I've lived.
Is Bismarck the coldest place you lived?
Yeah, I'd say it's the coldest. Yeah, it's still home.
Yeah,
still home. I've lived away from there longer than I lived there, but I still consider it home. There's a lot of people that have had an awful lot of influence in my life that are there, and I'll never forget that.
Nice. Do you ever think about the hero's journey?
What's that?
The hero's journey is Joseph Campbell when you return back to your.
Yeah. I think of it a lot, for sure.
Yeah.
There was a sign one time I saw. You spend the first half of your life trying to get away from home, and the second half trying to get back. So
yeah.
I've said that to my wife too. Maybe it's a sign. Maybe it's time we go back. We get back, and we're back get back with our parents and help them when they need it. Just don't know yet. We'll figure it out. But I never say never. Because I thought I would never live in California either.
Right on. So can we get into? I know you mentioned when you were on your recruiting, you really didn't have any idea of maybe the depth of Dan Gable and the program until you got into the program. Can you just give us and the fans who, grew up as it was you're either, at least where we're from, you're either a Hawkeye fan or you're a Poke fan, and that was it in the 90s. It was either you're either a Hawkeye fan or you're a Poke fan. So could you just give us a little bit of what 4 or 5, a decade worth of time with Coach Gable is like, and what kind of impact that has had on you, not only as a wrestler but as a man, as an individual, as a coach, as a father?
Yeah, no, it's been great. It's obviously being at the program like Iowa, it's opened a lot of doors for me that maybe wouldn't have been opened, and part of that comes with success I had, maybe, or some of the success we had, but a lot of it I think is just being a part of the program, and you meet people and obviously being associated with Coach Gable and Zaleski and those guys, that it opens doors for you that maybe wouldn't open otherwise. And so I'm very grateful to have had the opportunity to be there. It was a great time in my life, and I'll always take that with me. And it carves you out as a person that you become. at least part of it. I mean, a lot of it was done by my parents as well, but it definitely carves you out as who you become as a person, as a coach, as a father. You take the way they handled things, and you look back and you try to do this similar thing with your teams or your family, or because Gable was definitely a family guy. Zaleski the same way. Family guys, they care about you as an individual, and obviously the team was important, but that was because of the individuals on the team. They cared about each individual, and very grateful to be a part of it. Very grateful to be a part of it. So, but yeah, you don't understand, like I said, you don't understand the magnitude of what it means until you get there and you're in it, and then you realize. But at least I never realized it until that point. But it comes and goes quick, and then it's there and it's gone before you know it. So, and that's one thing when I got here, I did quite a few talks and clinics and stuff, and I was at this camp up at Hume Lake, and one of the kids asked me at the end of camp, like, if you could do anything different in your career, what would you do? And I just said I'd learn to enjoy the moments more, because I had some great moments and great people around me with a team, with the coaches, with the fans and everything. But sometimes you're so wrapped up in getting that next accomplishment or trying to win that next match that you don't really enjoy just the moments you have. And I think that was one thing I would really try to do different, And I knew coming in here, like with this program here, it's not going to last forever. I knew my stint here wasn't going to last forever, because at some point I'm going to retire, right? And so I wanted to really enjoy the time I had here with these athletes and in this situation, building this program. And I told that to my wife. I want to really take it in, because you never know when it will end. And obviously here it ended a lot sooner than I thought it would. But that's, I think, one thing looking back and over my course of my career is just enjoy the moments, because you can be gone tomorrow.
Did that help going into this year's NCAAs for you?
For sure.
Yeah.
For sure. Just enjoy it and, help these guys as much as I can and help them get to where they want to be. That's really all as a coach, all I'm trying to do is pass on the knowledge that I've been taught by others, because I've had some great coaches in my career. My club coach growing up, Milo Trusty, was in Colorado. My high school coach, Bill McCollum, and a lot of other people in the Bismarck area. And then obviously went on to college, and then it opened up a whole new set of people that help us along our way.
And was it always were you and your brother always going to go to the same school? Was that?
Yeah, we knew that for sure. We were really recruited hard by Minnesota and Iowa. And at the time, Jay was, kind of just starting out. He was only in Minnesota for a few years. So the program really wasn't to the same level as Iowa. But again, I didn't know that because I wasn't. Now I do, looking back, but at that time I didn't know that really. I didn't know the difference, I guess. But we were recruited by both of those pretty hard, and we knew for one thing we were going to go together. And at that time when they offered you a national letter of intent, you had like 2 weeks to sign it, or it was null and void. So it came down to, I think we had to sign the letter at one of the places. I don't even remember which one it was. And so we had to sign it by midnight, and it was like 10 o'clock. We still hadn't decided. And I think the night before we said we were going to go to Minnesota, actually, but we never signed it. We said, we're going to get up tomorrow. We're going to get this thing signed. We're going to get it back to Jay. And we got up the next morning. It was like, just like something wasn't right. This wasn't right. And then we made the decision to go to Iowa. And once we made the decision, we just kind of moved forward with it. But it was very hard to do because we were, Jay was very good to us, and still is to this day. And just hard to do when you're dealing with, your the emotion of it all and the relationships and stuff. But in the end, you got to do what you feel is best. And I think Jay understood that later on. And obviously he was upset at the time. He was pretty upset at us when we called him and told him. But about a year later, we were at the Big Tens watching because we were redshirting. And I remember hanging over this railing, just kind of watching down onto the floor. And he came up beside me and said, he said, I was just caught in the emotion of it. He said, I wanted you guys, and he goes, I'll help you any way I can. But just in the heat of the moment, it was, he was upset. There's no doubt he was upset at us.
Yeah.
So.
Well, and having a moment like that, with your brother and making the decision, but then also having Jay come back and talk to you, I would imagine that sort of had an impact on you in your coaching journey, because you have to go through that quite often, where you've invested time and energy, even recruiting dollars or trips or whatever. And then I would imagine you probably, just in the tone of voicemails or certain things, whether it's going to be they're coming or they're going the other place. So I mean, has that helped a bit for you?
Yeah, it has. And I think the way I've recruited it here, like especially here at Fresno, is, like I said, I wanted guys that wanted to be a part of this. And I don't want to make someone's decision just because I'm talking them into it, or because it's a money grab, or, that's not the reason to be here. I always say to guys, if you feel there's a place out there that will get you to your goals, your accomplishments more than this place, if you feel your heart's there, then that's where you got to go. And don't think I'm going to feel bad about it, because if it's not good for you, it's not going to be good for me either. And I know I probably have lost kids because of that, because maybe they don't think that I really want them. But I know when I got a kid, I got him for the right reasons, and he's going to give me everything he has. So I feel very fortunate here. Like the first guy that signed with me here on National Letter of Intent was Jacob Wright, who's now at Wyoming. And he was the first guy to just sign with me, and tell you what, he was our leader. From probably not from day one, because he never won a state title. He never, he probably didn't feel he was worthy right away, but the amount of work he put in and the energy he put into it, and you just knew the kid lived it. And I know he's going to break through. I mean, he made the quarterfinals this year and fell in the round of placing, in the round of 12 to place. And but he's going to break through. To what level, I'm not sure, but it means too much to him, and I'm very fortunate to have him come in here and be the first one to sign and help lead this team, because he was great for it. So very, it was like that.
Coach, you had mentioned the importance of your brother growing up. You guys decided you were going to go to the same college. I know Rich is 11 years older than me, but he had a huge impact on me as a wrestler. Just talk about the impact your brother had on your success as a wrestler, how your relationship as brothers grew through the sport, and what it was like when you guys graduated and kind of went your separate ways and weren't together all the time.
Yeah, I'd like to think that I could accomplish what I did without my brother, but realistically, I can't say I could have, because he was there every time to pick you up when you were down, or push you down when you were too high on your horse, whatever you want, however it was, I mean, he was always there kept you grounded, and kept you working. And he was always the guy that I was always in competition with as well. I mean, but we drove each other. We knew we had a special thing, just being twins, having a workout partner your same size, and we wanted to use that as much as possible because we knew that was one thing that a lot of people don't have. So we wanted to use that to an advantage, and I think we have throughout our careers. I mean, we went through high school, through college. We pretty much stayed together till we were 32 years old, until we were done competing. So to say that I could have accomplished what I did as an athlete or as a coach without his help would be crazy, because even to this day, we talk about every day on the phone, and sometimes it's not much. We don't have to say too much. We kind of know what's going on in each other's lives, but we're always there to bounce stuff off of. And, this was a tough year for me with, this whole thing dropping and all this. And he was, always one I could bounce stuff off of to keep my head right, to be right for the athletes. So yeah, it's been a great relationship, obviously. And I've been able to help him a little bit, in the success he's had with the women's program as well. So it's been fun to be a part of.
Is he down in the Springs?
Yeah, he is.
Yeah.
That's a funny thing too. Like we were both coaching at Wisconsin at the time in 2002, and he called Rich Bender for a letter of recommendation because the Cal State Fullerton job opened up. And Rich said, "Why don't you just come here?" And he said, "For what?" And he said, "Well, I'm opening up a national women's position. Women's wrestling just got added to the 2004 games, and I'm hiring a head women's position for the first time. And I think he got the temperament to do it." And he's like, "Rich, I've never been a fan of women's wrestling." And he goes, "Well, to tell you the truth, I haven't been either." But he said it's added to the Olympics. He said, "I need someone to come in here and run. I think you get the temperament to do it." And so he called me up on phone. He goes, "I just been thrown a curveball." And I said, What are you talking about?" And he told me, and I said, "Look into it. You can always say no, So we started talking to some of the top women at the time, Patricia Miranda and Sarah McMahon. And, he realized that they had the same goals as he did. And then he said, "I really had to look at, why am I coaching? Am I coaching just for me, or am I really trying to help someone achieve their goals?" And I knew if he was going to take it, he was going to dive in. I knew he would do it because that's just how we work. So he dove into it, and he told Rich he'll give him 2 years, and he's going back to the college scene. Well, now it's almost 20 years later, and he's still there.
Nice. That's awesome. Do you guys, because you guys seem like you have a very, very calm, kind of soothing just way about you. When but you guys were also teammates with the Branch brothers, and those guys they at least always were portrayed as just controlled chaos, and sometimes it wasn't even controlled. Do you have any epic stories of you and your brother getting into any scraps throughout the years?
Oh yeah, I mean, usually when we fought, it was on the wrestling mat.
Yeah,
like it was when we were in practice, and you're more frustrated with what you're not doing probably than you are at him, but it came out in those situations. But like I said before, we also knew that we had a huge advantage that we had to use, and so there were times when we fought, and those were probably the times when we did fight, but but for the most part we've been able to use it to our advantage, I think. And
yeah.
Our dad was a very, very calm, level-headed guy. He passed away in 2006, so it's been quite a while, but he was very calm, and he never ever got on us about any loss or anything. All he'd do is say, "Get back to the drawing board, get back to work." My mom was probably more of the fire plug. She was the one that she'd jump on us if most of the time, if there was, the effort wasn't there, or trying to get out of the shot. The effort wasn't there, or the hustle, or any unsportsmanlike situations. She wouldn't put up with that. So she was probably the one where we got the fire from. But our dad was very level-headed and never said too much. They had us when they were 17 and 18 years old, so they essentially kind of grew up with us. They never had the experience of going to college, and they went right to work. And so they kind of, when we went to Iowa, and they were experiencing it as well. They were enjoying it and having a good time with it.
Is it just the two of you?
We have a sister that's about 7 years younger.
Okay, cool.
She always says we were the mistakes, and then mom and dad had to get their feet under the ground a little bit before they had another one.
That's funny.
I feel you, Coach. I was 11 years after Rich, so I can relate. You had mentioned before that kid at a camp asked you if there's anything you could have done different. One question I love to ask coaches is, you always hear growing up wrestling that this sport is going to teach you lessons for the rest of your life. And as a kid, when I heard that, it was always, yeah, whatever, right? You just want to win. You just want to get the medal. Is there any particular moments or kind of times of adversity that stick with you to this day, and you can kind of say or point to that moment and be like, wow, that had a huge impact on me and changed the way I think about things, or just the way I approach things?
Yeah, there's definitely a few defining moments that you really struggled and really had to overcome mentally. But I think more so is just the day-to-day discipline, the process that you went through to get yourself prepared as a wrestler. I think that's probably been more a part of my life than anything, just the day-to-day discipline that you have in your own lives. And now that you're trying to teach your own children, the same thing. It comes in, it's a daily thing. And there's going to be a few events that maybe will really stand out for you as an athlete or something, but it's really the day-to-day work that you put in or that you're doing, and that you have to focus on, I think. And I think that's one thing that's really helped. But obviously the moments that have maybe hurt the worst for me, when I got beat in the semifinals my senior year in college was a heart wrencher. Colot beat me in the semis my senior year, and it seems like it just erased everything you did before that, and it took me a long time to get over that. And but it's probably driven me as a coach. It drives me to this day, because I don't want anyone to feel that themselves, or not. I don't want to have them to feel it too many times. The good thing is, if it's hurting that bad, that means you probably put a lot into it. So that can be I guess a good thing and a bad thing. It depends on how you look at the situation. But that was one moment that it took me probably too long. I dwelled on it too long and let it affect me too long to get past that. And it probably hurt me for a few years in the freestyle circuit until I got past that. So, but I think it's just the resiliency, just to get up every day, and after maybe you've had a bad practice and you got to get up the next morning and do it again, and just go right back to work, But I never looked at it as a job or a hard thing to do, because it was something that I wanted to do. It was my choice to do it. I watched my parents work, 12-hour days for years. And I always think to myself, so I'm working out 2-3 times a day. Who cares? They're providing for me by going out and busting their ass 8, 10, 12 hours a day in and day out throughout the course of the year. So for me to go into the practice room and work hard for a couple hours 2-3 times a day, big deal. Big deal. I think it's just that I think how you look at it, how you look at the situations you've been through. But they like that. There's that saying that Gabe always says that wrestling, once you've wrestled, everything else is easy. I don't know if everything else is easy, because you have a loss of a loved one or something like that. It's much tougher than the loss of a wrestling match. But I think having the losses in matches or practices or some of the stuff that you've had to fight through in wrestling helps you in life for sure.
I know you said that the Central Valley is a hotbed, like top 5 in the country, and I'd say Region 6, Jersey Shore is right up there too. There is a wrestling club on every corner in the state of New Jersey. Is it like that in the Central Valley? Is there wrestling clubs all over the place?
There are a lot of, the high schools are very developed. The junior highs, the elementary schools. I mean, it's unbelievable here in the Clovis School District. And you go look in the fall of the year, they'll have at 3:00 on Friday in the fall of the year, you're going to have basketball, cross country, football, volleyball going on. Every Friday at 3, there's going to be kids are involved in something. And then in the winter, it shifts to wrestling, basketball, just different sports. Spring, it's the same way. So it starts at a very young age, and it's not, maybe it's an 8 to 10 week period. So it's not very long, but then they move into the junior high and it becomes a little bit more in depth. And then they get into high school and they're used to being on a team. They have that team concept built in already. They understand that, and it's very competitive. So it's a neat thing for kids to come up through here. And I think the Clovis School District has probably been the one that has driven it, but because of the success they've had and how they're structured, it's really had the entire valley kind of setting their structure up similar. And it's a neat thing, and I think it's very, very, the kids come out of here, they know how to wrestle. There's no doubt. Now, the part that scares me is sometimes they've been pushed maybe a little too hard by their parents, or it wasn't their choice, but the kids that come out of here, they definitely know how to wrestle. There's no doubt about that. Or they've had the opportunity to learn. If they haven't, that's is on them.
Yeah. Talking about kids that you maybe pushed a little bit too early, too soon, and by the time they get to high school or maybe college, have kind of, I don't want to necessarily say peaked, but they've exhausted themselves mentally or physically or both. Do you have any sort of advice for potential parents that might be going in that direction with their kids? Because we've seen it a lot in multiple different sports, whether it be wrestling or running or track and field, where it almost seems at certain levels, mom and dad are a little bit more into it or living vicariously through their kids.
Yeah.
Detriment to their kids, unfortunately.
Yeah. And there's some kids that will be pushed by their parents and they'll go on and they'll have great success for a long time, but very few. Most of them are going to be out of it. So I think most kids, they get involved in athletics, most kids will be in it 10 years or less. So I always say, when do you want them? 5 to 15, 10 to 20. When do you want those years? Because most kids are going to have about 10 years in them, and then they're going to start looking at, what else is out there? What else can I experience? So if you're pushing too hard, I feel at a young age, the biggest thing is you want to keep that hunger and you want to keep that drive within them. And going to like in wrestling, going to a tournament every Saturday and every Sunday, for 6 months probably isn't the best thing. Now, if it's a 2 to 3 month period, maybe different, but I don't think the biggest thing is to keep that hunger and they get the mindset to compete. And I think you can do that in anything. If it's playing a game of checkers, playing Monopoly, they learn how to compete. at a young age. And, but I think you can do that in a lot of different ways. And then let them grab it, let them introduce them to it. Maybe you can push a little, but they've got to be the ones that grab it. Because if they don't want to do it, if they're not the ones that are driving it, it's not going to work anyway. I always tell my kids, my own kids, like, I want you to find your passion. And not mine. I want you to find your passion. Whatever that is. I can watch anyone when they're passionate about it. I don't care if it's someone playing a violin, if they're playing basketball, if they're swimming. You can tell when someone is very passionate about what they're doing. And it's very easy to tell, and it's very easy to tell when someone is not, and they don't want to be there. And I've had both as athletes. Some kids you can just tell he's not excited to be on the mat, doesn't want to be in the practice room. Why are you doing it? You want to keep that hunger as a parent, I think, it's a tough thing because you see other kids having success, and you want your kid to have that success. So you want to push them, and you want to get them to all these different maybe clubs they can go to or practices they can go to, but it's got to be driven by them. And hold them back some too. Don't let them do everything when they're 5 years old, 6 years old. Save it a little bit. Save it. Keep them hungry for it. Because like I always say, you got about most kids are going to have about 10 years in them. And so when do you want it? 5 to 15? They're done when they're freshman, sophomore in high school? Or do you want 10 to 20? And then there's going to be a few that go on and will make it a career for themselves. Yeah. A very few. You're going to have a lot more that are done with it. It's not an easy thing, right? I mean, I've struggled with it myself, with my own son. I'm wrestling. It's easier with my daughter because I don't know anything about basketball. But I do know what effort looks like, and I do know what hustle looks like. So I do get on her about that, but I'm not going to get on her about, how she's shooting the ball or dribbling or what play she's doing. But I can understand the hustle, and I can understand the work she's putting in. So I just remind her, like, if you want to be at this level, you're going to have to put a little more work in, and I'll help you, but I'm not going to, and I tell my son the same thing. I'll help you. And if you want to get up in the morning and drill, lift, run, whatever, I'll help you, but I'm not doing the work for you. I'm not going to be the one that's going to get you out of bed in the morning. I won't do that. You got to be the driver. And if you need me to drive you, then I will, but don't get mad at me if I do. But if you want that, I can help with that. But for the most part, it's got to come from him or my daughter from her. They've got to be the drivers. So.
Has he tried to challenge you yet?
Oh yeah, he does. All the time. Yeah.
Has he come close yet?
Oh yeah, he's big. He's like, my son's like 6'1", he's like 190.
Oh wow, okay.
But yeah, I don't want to wrestle him too much anymore.
Right on. Coach, these are rapid fire questions in a sense that these are questions that we asked all of our guests, not necessarily like yes or no rapid fire answers. But the first one is do you have a daily practice or a daily ritual that you do on a regular, consistent basis to level up, to show up as the strongest version of yourself for your family and your kids and your athletes?
Well, I like to get up in the morning and get a workout in usually. I mean, just to get my day going. I usually, that's first thing I like to do is get up and brush your teeth, get up and get a little workout in and get my day going. And then I usually, try to spend a little bit of time in the gospel, a little bit. Not probably not enough, but I do try to spend a little bit of time on that.
Yeah. You have an Airdyne in the garage?
I do.
Yes. I love it.
Coach, are you a coffee drinker?
Yeah.
How do you brew it and how do you take your coffee?
Just I like a dark roast with a little bit of half and half. That's it.
Okay.
Yeah. And if I don't drink it by like 10 in the morning, I probably won't have a cup. It's just I like it in the morning. And after that, I don't. It's not like I can go days without it, but I think when I moved to Oregon and when I was out there, it's so damp and wet all the time. I think I just wanted that warmth in the morning, like just something warm in me. So. But here in Fresno, it's complete opposite. It's dry and hot. So
Yeah, you go from like a warm cup of coffee to needing like an iced coffee.
Yeah.
What are you listening to right now?
There you go.
Music, audiobooks, podcasts, you're reading anything like that?
Yeah, I listen for music. Well, I listen to country music. I'm a country fan. And then I just say, I've been listening to a lot of podcasts, just no one in particular. I just like to listen to other people, what they, other athletes, and coaches, what their mindsets are like and how they prepare their athletes. I like listening to that type of stuff, but no one in particular, really.
What's your go-to country?
Anything. Yeah.
Anything. Have you ever heard of Charlie Crockett?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm not it's funny because I don't know like song titles or even like songs playing. I couldn't tell you the artist, but I listen to it all the time.
Okay. Cool. And then, Coach, this last one, it used to be a bit more lighthearted before March of 2020. Now it gets a little weird. So if you don't want to answer, that's fine. But do you have a favorite conspiracy theory? Do you get down with Bigfoot? Have you ever seen an alien or a UFO, anything like that?
No, I haven't. I don't know. Like growing up in Dakota, I think we always had like the Loch Ness monster, in the lakes that we used to go, skiing in and swimming in, but nothing too much. But as a kid, I remember listening to that and kind of didn't want to dip your toe in the water sometimes.
Yeah. Yeah, totally. We're from Jersey. We have the Jersey Devil, so we were terrified by older cousins and family members when we would go into the Pine Barrens and stuff. They'd tap on the roof and turn the headlights off and stuff like that. So we feel you.
Yeah, no, like it's funny because I grew up on the river, like water skiing, and the Missouri runs right through Bismarck, and we were on the water quite a bit, but like big water scares the heck out of me.
Yeah.
Like even though like Lake Sakakawea in North Dakota is a pretty big reservoir, and I get up on that lake and I'm like terrified to go in the water a little bit, and I will, but I respect the water. And
Yeah.
out here you get to the coast and you go over into the ocean and it scares the heck out of me. I just have a lot of respect for the water. So, but
yeah, we grew up at right on the beach. Our parents' house is about a mile from the ocean, so I know all about being fearful of what's in the dark, murky water for sure.
Yeah.
Coach,
Awesome.
Thank you so much for your time. I really enjoyed this conversation, and just know that there's two dudes from Jersey that you inspired growing up that you probably never remember meeting, but I appreciate you taking your time to talk to us today, and nothing but the best for you going forward. And if you land a new position or whatever happens and you want to promote it, feel free to hit me up. You're always welcome on Airey Bros Radio.
All right. Thank you guys. I appreciate you reaching out, and great chatting with you guys.
Yeah, great chatting with you. Have a great day.
Okay, you too.
Take care.